Boy with cancer asked to meet Adam Sandler. What happened changed his life. The town of Grove Hill, Ohio wasn't famous for much. A few corn festivals in the summer, a local football team that hadn't won state since the 90s, and a diner where everyone knew your name. But inside the modest one-story home on Eastwood Lane, something quietly extraordinary was happening. Noah Williams, 12, sat by the window wrapped in a grey fleece blanket that used to belong to his older brother. The chemotherapy had taken. Most of his hair and his frame had become alarmingly thin, but his eyes still held a spark of stubborn life. He was watching Happy Gilmore for what must have been the 15th time this month. His mother, Janice, moved quietly through the living room, carrying a tray of scrambled eggs and toast, though she knew he might only nibble. "That one again?" she asked gently, placing the tray by his side. Noah shrugged, smiling faintly. "He makes me laugh. It's like, for a few minutes, I forget all this." Janice sat down, brushing a hand over his shoulder. They had stopped pretending things. "We're going to be okay weeks ago. The doctors had been honest. The treatments weren't working, and time was something they were running out of. But they still had moments, small, golden moments, and she clung to each one like breath." Later that afternoon, Noah's social worker, Melissa, stopped by. She brought books, soft gloves, and that look of careful optimism that Janice had learned to decipher. "I wanted to talk about the Make-A-Wish form again," Melissa said, sitting beside Noah's bed. "You can ask for anything, you know. A trip, a celebrity, even something weird like feeding giraffes in Africa. We've seen it all." Noah thought for a long time. Then he looked at her and said, "I want to meet Adam Sandler." Melissa blinked, then smiled. "That's doable. He's done these before." "I don't just want a handshake or a photo," Noah added. "I want to actually talk to him, like have lunch or something, just hang out." There was something about the way he said it, quiet but certain, that made Melissa's throat tighten. "Okay," she nodded. "Let's see what we can do." Within a week, the town knew. Janice hadn't planned it, but word spread fast in a place where school baseball made the local paper. A GoFundMe page popped up to cover any extras, organized by Noah's old gym teacher. The diner put up a sign, "Make Adam Sandler hear Noah's story." Even the high school kids started a hashtag campaign online. What started as a boys' wish quickly became a community mission. People posted videos, tagged celebrities, wrote heartfelt messages. Janice watched in disbelief as strangers across the country shared Noah's story. One night, after tucking him into bed, she sat on the couch, scrolling through dozens of messages. "Please let this reach him," she whispered. Meanwhile, in a production studio in Los Angeles, Adam Sandler's assistant was checking emails. When she noticed the subject line, "Urgent, a boy's final wish," she clicked and paused. The email didn't sit long in Adam Sandler's assistant's inbox. By 10 a.m., it had made its way to Adam himself. He was on set in Burbank, in between takes for a new comedy, sipping his usual iced coffee and scrolling through messages. The subject line caught his eye. The message was short, accompanied by a link to a video, a boy, bald and pale, talking to the camera with the hint of a smile. "My name's Noah," he said. "I've got leukemia. I've been fighting it for a while now, but the doctors say we're near the end of the road. I don't want to go without doing something that makes me feel normal. You've been making me laugh since I was a kid, so if you've got the time, I'd really love to meet you." Adam didn't smile. He didn't make a joke. He just sat there for a long moment, his thumb resting on the screen. "Can we get in touch with this family?" he asked quietly. Within 2 days, his team had reached out to Melissa, then Janice. The call came on a cold Tuesday morning. Janice stood frozen in the kitchen as the voice on the other end confirmed it wasn't a prank. Adam Sandler wanted to meet Noah, not just a call or a video message. He wanted to come to Grove Hill, When Janice told Noah, his reaction was quiet at first. He didn't yell or cry. He just whispered, "Really?" as if the hope itself might break under pressure. Then he smiled, really smiled, and hugged his mom tighter than he had in weeks. Preparations began almost immediately. Adam's team coordinated with a local hospital to ensure Noah wouldn't be overexerted. The town stepped in too, organizing a private lunch at the local library's event room, since it was the only quiet place big enough and wheelchair accessible. On the morning of the visit, Noah's room buzzed with a nervous energy. He wore his favorite hoodie, slightly oversized now, and Janice made sure his feeding tube was clean and his nausea meds were taken early. Despite the fatigue in his limbs, he insisted on walking from the van to the library doors. When the black SUV pulled up to the curb, there was a strange hush over the few people who'd been allowed to be there. No cameras, no media. Adam had requested privacy. He stepped out wearing jeans, sneakers, and a navy hoodie. No entourage, no assistants, just him. When he saw Noah, he smiled. "Hey, buddy," Adam said, kneeling down. "You must be the toughest kid in Ohio," Noah grinned. "And probably the biggest Happy Gilmore fan, too." They shook hands, then bumped fists. Adam didn't treat him like he was fragile. He talked to him like a kid, cracked jokes, teased him about his messy hairline, what little was left of it. They talked movies, baseball, favorite foods. At one point, Adam even did a full mini-scene from Billy Madison, complete with the voices, while Noah laughed until he coughed. They spent nearly 2 hours together. Adam brought gifts, custom-signed scripts, a hoodie from his new film, and a video message from some of Noah's favorite actors who couldn't be there. But the best gift was something quieter. Presence, undivided attention, the kind that made a boy feel real and alive in a moment where everything else was slipping away. When it was time to leave, Adam leaned close and said something only Janice could hear. "Don't worry about the bills, we've got them." Janice's mouth opened in stunned silence. He smiled, patted her shoulder, and walked out. Noah didn't stop smiling for the rest of the day. That night, as Janice tucked him in, he said, "Today felt like something from a different life." She brushed the back of her hand against his cheek. "Then let's make tomorrow part of that life too." Outside, it snowed lightly over Grove Hill. Inside, something had shifted. Not a cure, not a miracle, but a light that hadn't been there the day before. The morning after Adam Sandler's visit, Grove Hill felt different. It wasn't just the snowfall that blanketed the streets in a calm white hush. It was the way people smiled at each other a little longer, lingered in conversation, and talked about what had happened as if they'd all lived it together. Noah, still weak but clearly lifted, lay in his bed watching the video Adam had recorded on his phone. It wasn't meant for the public, just a private moment. Adam sitting beside him, telling jokes, reading lines, calling Noah his buddy from Ohio. It made Noah laugh every time. But it also did something else. It sparked something in him. That afternoon, he turned to Janice with a surprising request. "Can we go to the school tomorrow?" Janice blinked. "You mean the middle school?" He nodded. "Just for a bit. I want to see my friends, say hi. I don't know if I'll get another chance." It was a painful reminder, but also a brave one. Janice made the calls, and the next morning, wrapped in his thick coat and hat, Noah was wheeled into the main hall of Grove Hill Middle School. Word had spread quickly. Teachers lined the hallways, students stopped whispering and just waved, and a few of his old classmates ran up, their faces unsure but kind. Noah smiled. "Still smells like tater tots in here." They laughed, and for a moment it was like nothing had changed. Later that week, a local journalist asked if they could do a story, not just about the celebrity visit, but about Noah himself. Janice was hesitant. They'd had their moment. What more was there to say? But Noah was the one who answered. "Let them. Maybe if someone hears it, it helps them too." The article ran under the headline, "More Than a Wish, How One Boy Made a Town Believe Again." It detailed not only the meeting with Sandler, but the quiet courage of a boy who chose laughter over despair and how his simple wish brought a community together. The piece went viral. Suddenly Noah wasn't just a local story. National morning shows mentioned him. Letters poured in, thousands, from kids, adults, even other cancer patients. Some wrote jokes. Others shared how Noah's story helped them through their own grief or fear. Janice read some aloud each night. They sat together by the window, a small stack of letters at her side, the snow now turning to slush as spring slowly approached. One night she read one that made her pause. It was from a boy in Arizona, also battling leukemia. He wrote, "I saw you laughing. I forgot how to do that until I watched your video. Thank you, Noah. You reminded me I'm still here." Noah didn't say anything at first. Then he whispered, "That's why it happened. That's why he came." Janice touched his hand. Maybe. Or maybe because you're just you. As the weeks passed, Noah grew more tired. The treatment stopped. Hospice care stepped in. But even in those final days, he never lost that brightness, never stopped watching comedy movies or replying to the letters he could. On a quiet Sunday morning just after sunrise, Noah passed away in his sleep. The house was still. Janice sat beside him for a long time, her hand resting over his. No tears at first, just silence filled with the memory of laughter and snow and a boy who had faced the end with more grace than most ever do. Outside, birds returned to the trees, and the streets of Grove Hill stirred with early spring. Inside, Janice whispered a final goodbye, not to a boy who was dying, but to a boy who had truly lived. The funeral was held at Grove Hill Community Church, the same place where Noah had once played Joseph in the Christmas pageant when he was 7. The building overflowed with people, friends, classmates, teachers, nurses, neighbors. Some wore ties, others wore hoodies with movie logos, just as Noah would have wanted. There was no open casket, just a framed photo of him smiling, wearing his Cleveland Guardians cap, flanked by movie posters and stacks of the letters he had received. A soft, instrumental version of the Hanukkah song played gently through the speakers, and it made a few people chuckle through their tears. Adam Sandler did not attend in person. Janice had asked for privacy. But he sent a letter, handwritten, which the pastor read aloud at the end of the service. "I only met Noah once, but in that short time, he reminded me what matters: laughter, courage, loving your people fiercely no matter how long you have them. He was the kind of person you... Don't forget, I won't. Adam." Outside, as people filed quietly out of the church, there was an unexpected moment of stillness. Janice stood by the door, hugging those who came. It wasn't just grief on her face, it was gratitude. Gratitude for the letters, the laughter, the quiet way her son had managed to move the world, even if just a little. In the weeks that followed, the town of Grove Hill kept Noah alive in small ways. The diner where he loved pancakes named a dish after him, the Noah Stack. His school installed a bench under the big oak tree in the playground, with a plaque that read, "He made us laugh. He made us brave." But perhaps the most unexpected legacy came from an email Janice received one evening. It was from a producer at Netflix. They had seen the news, the story, the way the internet had embraced Noah's journey. Adam had mentioned it during a meeting. The producer wanted to create a documentary, not about celebrity visits, but about kids like Noah who lived big lives in small windows of time. Janice was hesitant. She didn't want Noah turned into content, but after much thought and a call with the producer, she agreed. On one condition: the story had to focus on what Noah gave, not what he lost. The project moved slowly, but it became something more than anyone expected. Interviews with his friends, his doctors, even Melissa, the social worker, bits of video from that magical lunch. and most poignantly, Janice reading aloud from Noah's favorite letters. The film was titled Still Here. It premiered the following spring, and people watched it in silence across the country. Schools screened it. Hospitals played it in pediatric wings. It wasn't about death, it was about choosing how to live. One night, months later, Janice received a letter, handwritten, shaky. It read, "My son has cancer. He's scared. We're all scared." But we watched Noah's story, and he laughed for the first time in weeks. Thank you for sharing him with the world. Janice folded the letter and placed it in a wooden box, already filled with others like it. She kept it beside her bed, close to the place Noah had once slept. She still missed him every day. That would never change. But she also carried something lighter now. Not just grief, but pride. The kind that came from knowing her son hadn't just survived his illness. He had left behind something that mattered, something that stayed. A year passed. Spring returned to Grove Hill, this time warmer, greener. At the edge of town, where the woods began just past the park, the city had approved a new walking trail. At its entrance stood a modest wooden sign, "The Noah Way, Walk with Heart." It wasn't flashy. Noah wouldn't have wanted it to be. The trail wound gently through budding trees, past wildflowers and creeks. It became a quiet place for reflection, for breathing, for remembering. People came to walk it with their children, with their thoughts, sometimes with their grief. It was just a trail, but it meant something now. Janice walked it once a week, always at the same time. Sunday morning. Sometimes she'd bring a thermos of tea. Sometimes she'd bring one of Noah's old letters, folded gently in her pocket. Back. In town, the Still Here documentary had taken on a life of its own. Schools used it as part of mental health programs. Doctors mentioned it to parents. And once a year, in March, a national streaming platform highlighted it with a banner that read, "In memory of the boy who chose to laugh." Janice never sought attention. She declined interviews, rarely responded to press, but she did receive hundreds of emails, some from nurses, some from other parents, all from people who had seen a reflection of their own pain or their own child in Noah's story. She replied to one each week, just one. That was her promise to herself, to keep something alive, gently and steadily, the way Noah had lived. One message from a young filmmaker in Boston stood out. "I didn't know what kind of films I wanted to make. Now I do. I want to make things that matter, like Noah did. Thank you for letting us know him." On what would have been his 14th birthday, Janice hosted a small gathering at the town library, the same place Noah had met Adam. It wasn't a memorial. It was a celebration. Kids played games. They ate pancakes. A projector showed his favorite comedy scenes. Laughter echoed in the very room where he'd once laughed hardest. At one point, Melissa, the social worker, approached Janice. "You know," she said softly, "in all my years, I've never seen anything like it. The reach, the impact, that kid changed people." Janice smiled, eyes glistening. "He changed me first." Outside, the town clock chimed. A soft breeze rustled through the newly bloomed dogwoods, and for just a moment Janice closed her eyes and let herself feel it, not just the ache, but the fullness of what had been. Her son hadn't made it to high school. He hadn't traveled the world or had time for big dreams, but somehow, against all odds, he had changed the lives of thousands, maybe more, not through acts of greatness, but through laughter, kindness, and the raw courage to be himself. And in that way, he wasn't gone. He was still here.